Welcome to Cultural Catalyst, the podcast that shines a light on the creative visionaries working behind the scenes in arts and entertainment. I'm your host, Allison McNeil, CEO and founder of McNeil Creative Enterprises. With over 20 years of experience advocating for equity and sustainable growth in the arts and entertainment, I've seen firsthand the power of the behind-the-scenes creatives. Here on Cultural Catalyst, the creatives behind the curtain take center stage. Let's celebrate the people who make the magic happen. Let's dive in. Arts Administrators of Color Network is a proud marketing sponsor of this podcast. Arts Administrators of Color Network is a national community connecting and uplifting BIPOC and global majority artists and arts leaders across the country. From mentorship to professional development, AAC is building a more equitable arts future. Learn more at aacnetwork.org. Today's guest is Anshia Crooms. Anshia is a powerhouse in entertainment and philanthropy who's been making major moves behind the scenes for nearly 2 decades. She's the CEO and founder of Briclyn Entertainment Group, a boutique booking and events agency representing an impressive roster, including Grammy winner Adam Blackstone, Grammy-nominated Eric Roberson, and American Idol standout Gabby Samone. Her production credits include the Toyota-sponsored Language of Love Music Festival and 8 years as the sole producer of East Orange's MacFest. Anshia is also the co-founder of Project Hygiene, a nonprofit supporting youth through wellness and dignity, work that's earned recognition from the Maryland General Assembly. She served as board governor for the D.C. chapter of the Recording Academy and was nominated for Billboard's Women in Music in 2011. With degrees from Bowie State and the New School, plus experience at industry pillars like Hidden Beach and Island Def Jam, Anshia blends sharp industry strategy with a deep commitment to community. Her mantra, "Just Do It," has fueled her mission to uplift independent artists while leaving a lasting impact far beyond the stage. Welcome to the show, Anshia.
Thanks for having me. I'm so happy to be here with you.
I am so glad that you're here, and I cannot wait to dig into the journey that you have been on.
Yeah.
Okay, so you launched your company at just 23.
I did.
While finishing your master's, is that right?
I was attending the New School in New York City, and I was getting my master's in film, which most people do not know. A master's in film and a minor in media studies. And so from there, the New School, if you know anything about the New School, it's a very big liberal arts school, right down from NYU. And so a lot of folks actually went to the New School, like Robert Glasper, So Bilal. A lot of my friends at the time were jazz students there. And so I started to connect with the students that were there. And I was interning at the same time. So from my friends meeting shows to me working at SummerStage to also interning at Island Def Jam, having wrapped up my first internship with Hidden Beach, I said, you know what? I think that I can start my own company. And so I didn't have a mentor. I didn't know what I was doing, but I always knew that I was supposed to go in entertainment. And so I just walked out on faith, and at 23 years old, started Briclyn Entertainment.
Okay. So that's so much. I gotta circle it back. Okay. You said you always knew you wanted to be in entertainment.
Yes.
But entrepreneurship is a very unique walk.
Yeah.
So can you tell me how you were clear about both of those things? And at 23.
So at age 11, I always like to tell this story. So at age 11, when Spike Lee came out with the movie Briclyn, I just remember watching that film and loving the way that he shot the film, the cinematography piece of it. But I also love how he scored the film. And my parents love music. I love music. And so for me, I was like, ooh, this picture making and putting this soundtrack together was something that I can remember that I was really attractive to. And so I knew at 11 that that was something that I wanted to do. And so by age 13, I remember when the movie Jerry Maguire came out and him being a sports agent and that famous line, "Show me the money." And I said, I don't want to do that. But I didn't necessarily think it was being in sports, even though I was an athlete in high school. But I just knew, like, between spite that urge at 11 years old of the watching the film and TV. I come from also a small town. And so for me, I had this very big personality, and I would always dream like I'm going to make it outside of my own backyard, right? Because the world is so much bigger than that. But I knew at 11 that I wanted to go into film and TV. I knew at 13, I still wanted to do film and TV. And so by the time I got through high school and went to Bowie State University, I studied communication, broadcast journalism. So I was starting to get my feet wet by, my major. And then I also was the program director for the radio station at an undergrad. And my first internship actually was with Hidden Beach, which at the time Jill Scott was signed to, and Kendrick the Family Soul. So that was my music internship. But on the flip side of that, I had a TV internship at TV1 when they first launched in 2004. And so I was kind of merging both worlds. So I had a little bit of a taste in both areas. And so just staying on that trajectory of wanting to go in the entertainment industry, I thought that I was going to be a filmmaker. Music, by the time I got to New York City and having these music internships is kind of where I was like, I think I can do that. And then a lot of my friends who were attending the new school with me, who were jazz artists, they needed shows. Some of my friends that were my friends at the time that I rep now needed shows in New York City. And so I just kind of took this experience of what I did at my internships and what I was studying and kind of said, you know what, I'm going to create a path for myself. And like you said, a lot of people, entrepreneurship is hard, and it wasn't even popular back in 2007. So here I am, this young woman wanting to chart my own course. And I think I'm very headstrong, right? And I always tell people if somebody hired me, they would probably fire me the next day because I'm not a yes woman. I will battle you, and I believe in integrity and what's right. And so I just said, you know what, the things that I was seeing at the label, and honestly, they weren't even hiring like that. And when they were hiring, you would have to start in an admin role. So if you're going to pay me $30,000, $40,000, I can go make that on my own. So I just had this inkling and this spirit. Everything that I do is driven by my faith. And so I just knew like there's this internal thing inside of me from the age 11 to 13 and the little girl that's from the country that said, you go and do what you're supposed to do and listen to God. And so he has basically laid the foundation for me on everything that I've done. So I just knew that I was supposed to be doing this work.
Thank you for saying that and for sharing that, because, one of the things that we hear from all of our guests is there's a point in time where it clicks like,
yeah,
that's something that I like first, and then something I could do second. And it sounds like it happened for you at 11 and got clear at 13. And the fact that you were able to have internships in music and TV.
Yes.
Got an opportunity to kind of see both sides of the coin, because the industries are both entertainment, but very different.
Very different.
So what do you remember most about that season of your life?
Starting Briclyn, being broke, but just having this notion that I was going to make it. I lived in New York City, and so it really is true. If you live in New York, if you can make it there, you can make it anywhere. And so I always remember, like, I have amazing parents. When I moved to New York at 21, they definitely we're not sure if that was the right move for me, but I knew for me it was. And so I just said, you know what, I'm going to go out here. I transferred my little retail job from Maryland, from Lord & Taylor to the flagship store on Fifth Avenue. And so I was hustling in the shoe department, getting my commissions and my little paycheck, but I also decided to work on campus. And so I remember when Erica Elliott's team from SummerStage, they came to the new school to interview students for internships. And I'm 21 at the time, and I said, I just want an internship. I just want to know the lay of the land of New York City. So they ended up hiring me and giving me a job, and I stayed with SummerStage for 6 seasons. And so I always like to say that SummerStage at age 21, 22 years old was my true foundation of really painting the picture. Yes, I had all these amazing internships, but SummerStage truly was my school, was my path to say, this is what I want to do. So if you look at what I'm doing today, it really is centered around some of the things that I got from my internship, but learning live show production, having to work with artist managers, with their lawyers, with their agents, having to advance their shows, having to get their hospitality. Like I was out in, rain, sleet, or whatever, sunshine. I was out there hustling as a production assistant. So I know the groundwork. And I just, like I said from the beginning, yes, I remember being broke because New York City, not that I was necessarily super broke, but New York City is expensive. And so being 21 and 22 years old, but I did have, I was there for school. So that kind of really helped me. But I stayed for almost 10 years until I got engaged. And then I came back to the DMV area. So I probably would still be there had I not got married. But in the very beginning, I just remember having no money, but I remember the fire, the fire that was starting to burn and me wanting to paint the picture of saying, I really love music and I really love the behind the scenes of it. Like I'm not a singer, but I can sing. I wanted to play piano. And I remember I know I'm jumping all over the place, being 10 years old and my parents putting me in piano lessons. And I honestly think that's probably the beginning of my entertainment, being obsessed with it, is that they put me in piano lessons. I quit like maybe November of my lessons, not knowing that I was going to get a keyboard in December. So I quit because I didn't have a keyboard. And so I got this keyboard in December for Christmas and never picked it back up. So I always tell myself, in anything that I was going to start or anything that I was going to do, I was going to finish. So I did not quit on myself. So that 10-year-old moment still sits with me. And so I just knew, like, from that day on that I could do anything. And so, yeah, I didn't have money, but I figured out how to make money. And I aligned myself with really great people to help me grow in business.
What I'm hearing you say, and oh my gosh, that's so impressive. At such a young age, just clear vision, awareness about what is around you and the opportunities that exist. Clarity enough to know I'm surrounded by some really talented people and I can support what they are doing. And then deciding, okay, I'm going to have a company. Like I'm going to start my own company and I'm going to do, like, the level of determination, tenacity, vision, clarity, all of that. I can say that as an entrepreneur. It's not something that just clicks. Like,
no,
it's the skill that you just, it comes from curiosity, being open to different experiences. Wow. I'm just so glad that fire in you burned so brightly that you were able to launch at 23 and still business today.
18 years later, just because I was in grad school, when you're getting in anything in grad school, is about research. So it was like, for me, I had all these wonderful moments and internships and things of that nature, but I was a researcher. I was trying to graduate. So it was like, okay, I'm up here learning about media economics, taking law classes. So from there, I was in an economics class where we had to create a business. That was also another foundation to teach me how to start my LLC. My roommate at the time had just started a business and she had a bunch of books in our apartment. And I just would read the books that she had. And then I started to research how to file a New York City LLC. That was the first thing I did before even. So I of course, in anything that I do, I wrote it down, but I researched how to start a business back in 2007-06. Oh yeah.
It's almost like the steps were ordered once you set your, once you manifested what it was that you wanted your life to be. And, when I think about journeys that are so clear at that age and for them to still be in existence 18 years later, I just have to give you flowers. Of course, that's why you're here, but flowers again for just having the faith in yourself and your tenacity to keep it going, to keep it moving. I hear you talk about your exposure and your curiosity definitely being elements that supported how you got started, what you started to do. And, it's funny. I speak to all of these different guests about how they got started. It's usually some sort of curiosity, some mentor. You mentioned you didn't have a mentor, but you were surrounded by people and you were resourceful enough to figure out, okay, this is one part of the ecosystem. This is another part. And this is the other part. That is a gift, and definitely got to give you flowers for that, because at 23,
girl, yeah.
Well, you're doing at 23. I don't even know. I can say now in my late 40s as an entrepreneur for maybe, this is my second company, this one 9 years. You mentioned the class at your institution that started with the business plan. before I started my consulting firm, I was a research director at a consulting firm. So I was essentially running a whole department for someone else. I ended up doing the same thing for myself. I apply a lot of what I learned, but then also adding some of my own flavor to it so it could feel like, how did you shape Briclyn to be different? Or did you?
Well, I think in anything, like you said, I like what you just said there. You put flavor on your own. I knew that I wanted a film company, but I also knew because I was working with musicians because of the new school, me helping my friends get shows in New York City, along with working at SummerStage, honestly, is what changed the trajectory of how I was going to define what Briclyn was. I just remember my friends coming to ask me saying they wanted to have shows. And so my first show I produced and booked was at Kenny's Castaway down in the Village. It's no longer there, but I just remember cold calling so many music venues in New York and everybody telling me no. And it's one rock venue and they were a Black rock band. I remember just calling the venue to get them a show. And so, but I think by working with the bands and working with the artists and people that were my friends is really what kind of shaped what Briclyn was going to be. I was no longer this film girl, but I was also still writing treatments for them. I was also still doing different things creatively to help them with their social media because social media was still pretty big, was very new at that time, you know, coming off of not having like the Instagrams, but having MySpace and the Black Planets and things like that. I always was a super techie girl. So I just, you know, kind of took what I was already learning at school and applied it into my art. And so Briclyn was initially a management company. And so that's what I was doing. I started to manage my friends that were in bands. And so because I was working at a music festival, I was just basically learning as I was going and applying what I was learning by getting this real hands-on experience, but also my master's degree, you know, by the research piece of it. So I had written down exactly what I wanted to do. Like I knew that at the time I wanted to be the Quincy Jones and the Suzanne DePasses. I won't say his name, but when he was big back then, they used to call me little, you know what? Because I always went to work in the label side of things too, just having gotten that experience from Hidden Beach. So I just pretty much was a management company, but everything with me has been trial and error, and that has defined the path that I've taken. It's much more clear now because I have so many years of experience. But in the very beginning, it's simply because my friends needed concerts, then they needed help with the business. I had always been creative, but I was also very much business at the same time.
You saw a need, you had a skill, you
Yes.
applied it. One of the other things I heard you mention, or rather I put together because of what you said, you mentioned you started out as a management company. And if you recall what I was reading your bio, I said booking and events agency. What we know about entrepreneurship is that you start out one way, you learn a little bit more, and you evolve into something else. Constant evolution. Why the shift, and when did that shift happen?
The shift happened around 2011, and I just was tired. I was young. And, you know, I always tell the story of like taking grad student loans, which I shouldn't have done. Praise the God that my loans have been wiped out. Thank you, Biden.
Amen.
But I just remember, you know, putting my money into people's careers. It wasn't much money because I was broke, but, you know, just also trying to get to people's shows that were not in New York, traveling here, traveling there, a lot of times working really for free. And so for me, the shift came that I just honestly got tired of being the day in, day out of artist management. And I was still really young. So around, I want to say 2011, I had started booking Eric Roberson in 2009. I have been on his team since 2008, 7, 8. But I remember having a conversation. We were in a business meeting, a staff meeting, and because I sit on his team, and he asked, did anybody want to book? Now, I was already booking the artists that I was managing, but I never managed Eric. And so I remember him saying, who wants to book on my team? And I said, me. Like, I want to try it. And I remember that conversation. And that was 2009, 10. But by 2011, I said, I am changing my company. And so when I moved out of New York to New Jersey, I redid my LLC for a New Jersey company to make it a New Jersey company. And I was no longer a management company when I redid that in 2012. So 2011, I said, I'm done with this. That was the last time I repped an artist as a manager. By 2012, we were moving straight ahead into the booking space. And so for me, I always tell people the defining of a booking agent and a manager, they do similar things, but I don't necessarily have to. I book my show, I get my commission, I move on. But we're boutique. So sometimes it seems like we're management, but I'm not managing the day-to-day business of an artist. I'm managing the booking, the show part of it, of a touring artist. And so I like it. I like this space better than being a full-fledged man.
Thank you for starting to talk about that evolution, but then even distinguishing management from booking agency, because that's what I read, booking and events agency. Speak again about, just for those that are listening that one maybe didn't even realize that management and booking were two different things. How would you describe the two things?
Well, I would say this. When you're first starting out, your booking agent, manager, lawyer, whatever, tour person is all the same person because you don't have a budget to pay for them. Let's be fully real about that. But when you get into the notion of somebody that actually has a team, so for me, my team, we strictly create tour plans, booking plans, concert plans, and we go and pitch artists as an agent. So remember when I talked about being 13 and Jerry Maguire, the homeboy had a manager, but he also had an agent to go and pitch and do his football deals. So for me, I'm focusing on concerts and music or TV and things of that nature, whereas a manager is focusing on the deal of the TV, the deal of the music, the deal of your personal therapist, making sure your business is together. For me, I don't have to worry about all that. I just have to say, hey, do you have an album coming out? Do you want to hit some festivals? So for me, I'm not necessarily handling the full scope of an artist's career, but I'm handling one portion of the artist's career, which is strictly, we're music agents, which is strictly about, helping them to perform in different areas domestically and internationally. So I spend a lot of my days just really focused on tour plans and then the advancement of a concert. That's really where I center myself at, whereas a manager, they're focusing on the whole entire pie and not just part of the pie, if that makes sense.
Yes, yes. And so then as you talk about being a booking agent, planning tours, and thinking about who's on your roster, how do you know that an artist is right for you? How does that come to be?
Well, if you look at my roster, all of my artists can perform live. They're not studio singers. No one on my roster. I am a music girl. I love live musicianship. So for me, that's important for one. A lot of it is built on my spirit. A lot of things for me is faith-based. So it's like, I pray about it. I ask God. I also have a team. I sit with my team. Like now we've adapted this thing at Briclyn called listening sessions. Like if you were going to a listening album, but now we have listening sessions for potential clients. So we're listening to, people are always hitting us up, but we're watching the package. Also too, as a music agent, like I'm looking at tour history. Have you performed in different markets? Have you created your own fan base? What is the legwork you've done to get to me? I don't necessarily take on a lot of brand new artists, but like Gabby Samone, she's brand new, but she's had some traction. But it's a gut feeling for me to say I'm supposed to work with this young lady. I think everybody that I work with now has come through what my gut is telling me to do. And some things you do go into a relationship not knowing how it's going to turn out. And then you release that person or they release you. That happens. That's life. But the initial conversation is really looking at like their tour package or their tour plan, seeing who their team is, and honestly, seeing if they're good people. I want to work with good people. And so I think that we have a pretty good leg up on the type of personalities that we work with. Artists are artists. They're all special, but they're all pretty much well-rounded human beings. And so I think that, along with my team, like we have chosen some really amazing, dope artists, and they all can perform live and they all make great music.
Ever wish you had a clear way to describe the real impact of your creative work? Well, that's why I created the Impact Roadmap, a practical guide to help artists, cultural leaders, and consultants describe their impact with clarity and use it to strengthen their storytelling, fundraising, and strategy. Grab your copy at mcearts.com and start mapping your impact with confidence and purpose today. every time you say something, I feel like I have to say something. But what I hear you talking about, because you're clear on your vision and what it is you hope to do as an agency, when you see someone that is aligned, your gut will tell you. And, you know, in entrepreneurship, trusting your intuition, being really clear about who you are, who you aren't, it makes it easy for people to know if they rock with you or if they don't. And, you know, it's not good or bad, it just is. And I think that having that level of clarity makes it easy for the people that are meant for you to find you or you to find them to work out. So, okay. You book talent at some of the most iconic venues, from Afropunk, Kennedy Center, Jazz Café in London. Oh my gosh, how do you match an artist to a right stage and audience? Like, what is that process like? Give us the behind the scenes.
I mean, a lot of it too. Let's start at who the clients are, right? So we really sit down, and all of my clients have a pitch report. And so from there, I like to find out what they like and where they want to perform. And then from there, like, they give us an ideal pitch list, and then we go and check it out and see who we may know there, or even to formalize what the pitch is going to be. And so it's a lot of the booking that we do is based off of the interests of our clients. We speak with them about what they're interested in, and not just placing them in spaces. Like, one thing that Maimuna might be interested in might not work for the Amours. One thing that works for Adam may not work for Eric. Also, too, they're all different genres of R&B, or like Dana, he's contemporary gospel. You know what I mean? So what may work for him in the secular may not work for him. What may not work for him in the gospel lane, you know, those things. So you kind of match what the genres of the artist is. We kind of also look at what they want to do, where they want to perform it. Also, too, we have people that reach out to us for our clients, and then we kind of look at who they are, you know, what their events are all about. Will it be in a brand alignment with our clients? And so really the pitching process for us is really sitting down with our clients, understanding where they want to perform at, what time of the year they want to perform at, are they putting an album out? And so from there, we start to build out a pitch list to say, this is what their interest is. This is where we want to go. And that helps us create our tour plan for our clients. And then on top of that, we have people that do reach out to us for our clients because they see them on social media and they've had some pretty dope ideas. So it really is a partnership. We really partner with our clients to understand where they want to perform. And then, you know, we formulate that plan, and then we go after like sharks to see if we can make the opportunity happen. It's really honestly simple for us. It's based off of the interests of our clients. Everything is falling back on what our clients are interested in doing and not what we're trying to make them do.
And that is an intentional choice. You are helping and working in partnership.
Yeah, it is.
Prioritize what they have set as a vision. Your process and your approach reminds me of a conversation we had during our first season with Niall Washington, who is a PR expert publicist. She's currently at Netflix, but she spoke a lot in the conversation about when she was a publicist for Stars, specifically on Power, and speaking with that cast about where they wanted to have their faces, like which articles they want to, and the process that she described sounded very similar. Like,
and it works.
Works. And because you have relationships with those different venues and spaces, it helps makes the transition smoother. So
absolutely. So we repeat business for me, everything is about a relationship and creating lasting relationships. So we've been doing it for so long, so people like to see when we call them back too.
Yes. And you know what? Repeat business is the best compliment.
It's the best. Thank you.
Yes. It lets people know that it lets you as an entrepreneur know that they see you, they value you, and they want to continue to work in partnership, which is amazing. We talked a little bit about the booking side of your work. You also have the event side. And so you said earlier you produced the Language of Love Festival sponsored by Toyota and led East Orange MacFest for nearly a decade. What does it really take to build and sustain a festival from the ground up?
A budget.
Right.
Budget. You know, we work with different municipalities, which is the city governments, to different towns and things of that nature. And a friend, she believed enough in us. Back in 2016, we produced Language of Love, which is our festival, which is on hold for right now, but we own it. And so that's a legacy project for me. And I'll tell you more about that. But in 2015, we produced Language of Love. and did really well with it. And then we got a call in 2016 from a really good friend. And she was like, I saw what you did with that festival. Like, I would love to bring you to my city in East Orange, New Jersey. It's a brand new festival and it needs some help. And so, just from her knowing my background from SummerStage, like I had already had the blueprint. Like I knew what it took to create a budget. I knew what it took to like go after sponsors. I knew what it took to book talent because I have my own talent that I book. So the process is no different than what I'm doing when I'm pitching my clients to a festival or if a festival is coming to me. And so, like I told you before, everything has been about trial and error, but also I've had so many different examples that have fallen into my lap that I said, what, I gladly would take on producing this festival. And so from 2016 through 2024, we were the sole producer of the city festival, and it was growing. And then we, of course, had to a hiatus because of COVID and all the things. But we came back, and I think we killed it, And so I love that because as long as you have a budget, I can produce anything. It comes down to money, and I have a very strong team. Like my team is amazing. Like every single last one of them, from we all have gifts, right? And so like Kelsey has the gift of like being in TV and production supervising and production logistics. This is what she does. Siv has the marketing genius. Courtney has the marketing and booking genius. Kevin has the booking genius. Eric has the production manager genius. And then that's me. That's what makes up my team. And we pull from one another. And so I think I will always acknowledge my team and all the contractors that have worked with us and interns because it's not just me doing the work. And so I think we put everything in a melting pot and then we go and pitch ourselves to different companies because there's 3 areas in Briclyn. There's talent booking, talent buying, and event programming. And so I always tell my team, like when one thing is slow, another thing has to really be working, right? Because I come from SummerStage, which I'm always going to go back and give gratitude to. I come from that urge of that live showmanship, that being outside, watching people smile. And so I always want to make sure there's always an element to event production and what we do. And so I love pitching and going to bid for event productions because we got a well-rounded team of all the pot of people that I just mentioned. And so, it's been an interesting situation getting more events on our roster and things of that nature and partnering with different companies. But I love it.
I can tell that you love it. I see the energy that you're giving and talk about it. And, I say that on purpose because some people, you talk to them about their work and they describe it. Matter of fact, they don't light up as they talk about it. But then when you spoke about your team, the time that you took to talk about, I'm going to say zone of genius of each team member is paramount. Nothing happens with one person alone. Even if you're a one-person shop, there are multiple people that make something happen. A sound team that has been with you or that understands the vision and values align can be the difference between you producing something that is incredible and that an audience ends up talking about until the next year, or something that just may not hit the way that you intend. So flowers to your team. Okay. Like, I'm talking and I'm going in, but okay. And with DC Grammy Chapter Board Governor, you're helping to shape the industry from the inside. What does that role actually involve, and what changes are you most passionate about?
It's a part of the Recording Academy. I've been a board governor since about 2017, so a long time. And I'm very passionate about artists' rights and advocacy. Anything from down to healthcare. Music cares. People always think that the Recording Academy or the Grammys is the Recording Academy. It's just one part of the Recording Academy. And so I think, when you're not really within the circle of things, you don't understand what this is. But the Recording Academy, down to music cares, down to the LA fires that happened this year, giving people housing, to money, to ear clinics, to dental clinics. A lot of musicians and artists do not have health insurance, but they have the Recording Academy that fights on their right, advocates for their rights for them to be able to take care of themselves. And so then we have the award ceremony because we work hard. And so the professionals, and I'm always going to talk about the professional members, which are the booking agents, which are the managers, the publicists, the accountants, people like myself that always worked in tandem with the artists. And so under this umbrella of the Recording Academy is our ecosystem. This is what we do to create music, to entertain people, but also to take care of one another. And so as I sit on this board for DC, we cover DC, Maryland, Virginia, and North Carolina and West Virginia. And so we're speaking on behalf of artists, creators, and professional members throughout these areas. And so it's an honor and a privilege to serve on this board, to make local changes, to also try to initiate new categories for things like go-go, and the regional roots category. The social, it's the social change for, it's something, a new category that DC was able to create a couple of years ago. One of my clients helped write that along with Wayna. And so we were able through the DC chapter to initiate a new category. Music for social change. Yeah, music for social change. That came out of DC. That is something that we as board members sat around for almost a year and a half writing that proposal to get done. And that doesn't just help DC, that helps the world. That helps the world. And so we make opportunities and make moves within the DC chapter like that. And then we live in DC, so we're surrounded by advocacy. The advocacy office for the Recording Academy is actually based in DC. And so, it's an honor and a privilege to be able to serve on the board, but also to help my clients that I represent, because some of them were not members and I was able to get them to become members. Some of them were able to take advantage of these different health clinics that they offer, get discounts on like their gear. So the Recording Academy is doing a lot, you know what I mean? And so, and even giving back to like HBCU students and the Black Music Collective and things of that nature. I have been very vocal about that because I am an HBCU alum at the same time. And so making sure that I'm reaching back to the Bowie States, to the Howard Universities, to everyone that's within this area, and even my school, the New School, to say, hey, I know how to help you become a Grammy U member, because actually in 2007, I started as a Grammy U member when I was in grad school. Everything is very not calculated, but it's just a path that I've been on to be able to help other people as they continue to grow in this field.
You said not calculated, but it seems deliberate, right?
Yeah.
Every step, every thought, every way of approaching, who you approach, all of that, it sounds like it's very thoughtful and it's paid off. And those are the skills that keep you in business for yourself for a long time. I'm remembering I was working production for a music festival and I came into contact with Eric Roberson. Calm and easy to work with. Like, you have production assistants and all that. That's a different part of the ages of the business. But like, you see a whole bunch of stuff, but you remember those artists that are a breath of fresh air, that you always want to be there as you're navigating a festival. Because a festival, to your point, there are a lot of moving parts. You've chosen an industry that has changed significantly over the last, I'm going to say 5 years, but even 10 to 15 years. We're thinking about outsourced live events, but also booking, all of it. Like, how have you ridden the wave? Like, how do you shift and as your industry shifts?
Cool girl prayer. I'll be honest with you, like the way the economy is right now, I started 2025 very rough. A lot of things as far as how the dollar is spent in people's households, how people have to choose for entertainment, how my shows were not selling. I always think that I will always book artists. I do believe that, but I also believe that I will probably shift into some TV stuff, into representing also some writers and authors and things of that nature, like getting my hands maybe in some sports stuff. I think that I will make the shift. I will always be in music. I will always do that. But I also am very aware that other things have to pay the bills. And so I was one of the agents who definitely saw a decline in ticket sales this year, you know what I mean? Because of everything that's going on, the tariffs, the losing of jobs, like it's really real. I always tell people we did pretty well in COVID because we were able to pivot, the famous word pivot. My artists taught themselves how to do live productions virtually. We became virtual producers because we said, we got to do something to make money. Like, this is all I do. I don't know what else I would be doing. But I would not be honest if I didn't sit here and say that there will be some other shifts that come from Briclyn. But I just think that we're watching what's happening in the economy. We're watching and we're talking to people and we're seeing it. We're seeing ticket sales decline. And so for me, it's like, what else can we do to make sure that entertainment still exists in the household? Because it needed. People need music. I always like to say music is a universal language of love, which is why the language of love was created for us. But it's like we're watching what's happening in real time. So what I tell you today might be different what I tell you in 5 months, right? But right now I feel really, I feel good. But in January of 2025, I did not feel great. I was, and also too, look who's in office. So, that shifted itself and I felt like it was a morning happening for a lot of us. But then I woke up and I said, I'm still alive and there's still things to do. And so we're going to keep creating and doing all the things and bringing entertainment to people's homes, but also giving them opportunities to come outside.
You talked about your faith and how you trust your gut and how it's led you in many ways where you are, amongst other things. I just have to say, as someone that follows you on Instagram, on your Instagram stories, as you speak about your work, the day-to-day, it always has like a uplifting energy to it. Like there's a faith, inspirational part, and then a reality. You don't sugarcoat what it is you might be going through, but you also remind us that, we'll swing the other way.
I mean, because, when it rains, rain doesn't happen every single day. Sunshine doesn't happen every single day. So you got to pick and choose how you're going to carry that day. And so for me, I rather live in more a positive light. And when I feel myself in darkness, I pull myself out of things really, really quick. And, I've had some lows. Like I said, this year was really rocky, but I knew there's a post on my Facebook page that's pinned up top. In March, I had put a post saying, how I started this year is not the way that I'm going to end this year. I have to speak the life into myself. I've always been a very self-determined, motivated person. I speak that for myself first. I have to believe that. Somebody else can tell me that, but if I don't believe it, then you know what I mean? And so for me, how I started the year is not how I'm going to end the year. And so far, it's turned itself around because everything is about how you think. It's how you think. If you can think positivity and get your thoughts in clarity, then you're going to be all right. You know what I mean? Because trouble doesn't last always. And the darkness does not stay dark because sunlight has to happen. We're only in darkness for a certain point in time. There's light majority of the day.
Listen, you better say that because, it's very easy when things are rough to lose motivation, to wonder if you should make a change, to forget about why you started. I think that's natural, right? Like I won't try and have any toxic positivity that suggests that you not pay attention to that. But it's what happens after that. Some might say, but God, right? Like that your purpose is to do this work. It is always going to be there. It's just how.
Yes.
More than anything, the pivot, like you got to know and know and know. Trust yourself about what it is and then figure out what does that pivot look like? How can I make this shift? And then it I'll say naturally, maybe organically evolves in a way that still aligns with what you are intending to accomplish. Maybe last week or the week before that, I started writing on LinkedIn just to reflect on things as a leader. And the one that I did a week or so ago was called Pivoting as an Entrepreneur. So I'm so glad that you mentioned that. Oftentimes we have these conversations and I ask people for guidance and tips, but you've been dropping gems all along. In this last question I ask you, I'm going to ask you, for someone that pours into people, someone that regularly supporting an industry and holding the container for people's visions, how do you stay grounded? What are your wellness practices?
Listen, I get my nails done. I get a massage. I mean, I go to church too, and I have a great foundation. Let's start there with my mommy and my daddy. And I still call them mommy and daddy. I have a loving husband. I have amazing siblings. I have dope best friends. There's like 4 of us and we hold each other accountable. And I will say one thing that has been really helping for me and my best friend circle this year, in the last year and a half, we've been very intentional. We're all in an area now because I was the only one that was living away. We've been very intentional because we're all moms and we married and like that. But making sure that we date each other as friends, right? And these are my best friends from college. So this is 23 years of friendship. But we do quarterly dates so that even though we can't see each other all the time, we each pick a quarter. There's 4 of us, and there's 4 quarters to a year that we get to have girlfriend time. And if we want to see each other in between that, we can. But we have these dates that we pick quarterly. So that helps me being able to talk to them. We also have a prayer circle with one another every Monday at 9 a.m. And that has been a beautiful thing for me. So like keeping people that have been with me, if you know anything about me, even in Briclyn, majority of my team has been with me for a very long time, so I'm surrounded by love. I am surrounded by people who knew me when. There's, she's growing and she's this and that. And then I have parents that keep it real with me, like, who do you think you are? You're still my child, right? And so then I have this 3-year-old son at home, Zachariah. That keeps me grounded because at the end of the day, I'm mom first. And I didn't realize how much I needed this child until he got here. And so everything that I do now is really special for him. This is my legacy. I am doing the work that I do. I am surrounding myself around the people that I'm around because I have him. And when I look at him, he grounds me. But this is my faith in God, because I always say faith as big as a mustard seed. And if you can have faith as big as a mustard seed, and that seed is very small, that I can obtain and do anything, but also make sure that I stay grounded and stay humble, because as soon as you get something, it can also be pulled away from you. So I always keep that in mind. But I take care of myself: nails, feet, massages, get my hair done every 6 to 8 weeks. Yeah.
Humility, community, connection,
Yes,
values alignment. These are the things that I hear you talking about, in addition to the nails, the hair, taking care of yourself. And I think that as creatives and people that work in creative spaces, it's time that we really talk more about our wellness practices, because we can't do what we do without taking care of ourselves. I am going to wrap it up, and thank you for your time. But before I let you go, please let the audience know how to find you. What are the socials and the websites?
my website is Briclyn ENT, which is www.briclynent.com. You can also find me on Instagram at Miss Shishi. So that's MS_SHI_SHI, or at Briclyn ENT. Or you can also donate to my nonprofit, Project Hygiene, at projecthygiene.org.
Yes. Thank you for mentioning that. I wanted to speak about that directly, but I know time is of the essence. What we will do is add in the show notes all of the information that you mentioned, including Project Hygiene, so that people can find you.
And it's an honor. I would love to come back. Please have me, Allison.
We are all about making sure that people are aware of these opportunities, and that they are not only aware, but they know that there are paths to get there. And so thank you. Thank you so much. Cultural Catalyst community, another amazing episode. Oh my gosh. You know what? I feel blessed and I'm grateful. Until next time, thank you for tuning in to Cultural Catalyst. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to subscribe to the podcast and follow us for more inspiring stories from the world of arts and entertainment. You can find me on social media at MCE Arts and Allison T. McNeil on LinkedIn. Please leave a review and tune in to our next episode for more creatives behind the curtain. See you next time.